Another ruthless divisional weekend is behind us. The four games we saw were special in all their certain ways. And from there, we are down to four teams left in the NFL season. Two of them are going to the Super Bowl, two of them are going home. Let's talk about how these two conference championship games came to be, and then we will make our picks from there. So, a very exciting NFL show for you, brought to you by Magic Mind, and it is going to be an incredible, productive conversation. Hayden Nadler is with us. What's up, Hayden?
How are you?
Great to see you, buddy. We definitely all missed you here, including our new friends at Playbook Sports on TikTok. Give them a follow. They gave you some shout outs in the comments. So good and bad. Our friend Andrew over there, Southern Cal, Hayden. But everything's good otherwise.
Yeah,
Whatever.
everything's good.
Great to hear. So let us begin, Hayden. Let's talk about the divisional weekend. Then from the divisional weekend, we would preview and make our picks for the conference championships games. And yeah, we're almost done with another NFL season. So let us talk about these crucial moments. All right, Hayden, let's begin with the premier game that everybody was looking forward to. The Kansas City Chiefs went to Buffalo on Sunday evening. They were an underdog on the road, the first time Patrick Mahomes playing on the road in a playoff game. It was a back and forth game, but ultimately the Kansas City Chiefs win by a score of 27-24, and the Buffalo Bills falter. And they miss out on another chance to not only beat the Chiefs in the Josh Allen era, but another chance to come up short in an AFC championship game. So, Hayden, of all the things we could discuss here, the first thing I want to get into is about the Bills. And it seems that the Bills coming into this game and reckon I picked them to win and I was wrong. It's close, but I was wrong. But coming into this game, the Bills had as much momentum as possible, with the exception of being banged up on defense, missing Tre'Davious White and all those guys. You were a favorite. You were a favorite. You were at home for the first time. You won 6 out of your last 7. The Chiefs were struggling mightily on offense. And yet, somehow, some way, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs pulled off this victory. And I don't know about you, Hayden, but I think at this point, Josh Allen and the Bills are never going to get over the hump against Andy Reid and his Kansas City Chiefs. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're calling a fake punt at your own 25 when you're the Buffalo Bills, that really honestly says a lot to me psychologically that you just psychologically can't think you can beat them without having to pull off some extreme move. Which calling a fake punt when you're at your own 25 in like a tight game really just means you really think you have to do something extreme to beat them. So I think there's a psychological hold that the Kansas City Chiefs have over the Buffalo Bills just from that play alone that you could just tell that there's a certain mental aspect that they don't really believe right now they can get over the hump. What Buffalo does, in my opinion, versus Kansas City. In the game itself, I thought Josh Allen played great. Had a couple of plays on that deep ball by Stephon Diggs that he could have had. Maybe missed a throw on that one touchdown at the end of the game, but Chris Jones actually hit his arm, so it wasn't necessarily a missed throw. I just think it came down to the fact that Patrick Mahomes made a couple more of the big plays than Josh Allen did, and that's really it just come down to in a lot of the postseasons that they've had to face each other. It's just that Josh Allen has made one less play than Patrick Mahomes had, and Patrick Mahomes basically has gone to it's going to be six straight AFC championship games for Patrick Mahomes. So beating him, if you beat him once or twice, you're pretty much going to be in the Hall of Fame, like beating Brady once or twice is. It's going to make you a Hall of Famer. So Patrick Mahomes has the same mystique, the same allure, and beating him is almost damn near impossible in the playoffs. It's proven. But Bills were just depleted on defense. They're missing 4 or 5 guys on defense. Kansas City was able to grind up and down the field versus them. Rashee Rice has been great. What I think really was the main differentiating factor in this game was Isaiah Pacheco in the running game for Kansas City was just slightly a bit stronger than Buffalo's, and using that and a great defense is a good combination in the playoffs. So credit to Steve Spagnuolo, the DC for the Chiefs, is one of the best in-game defensive coordinators of all time, and Patrick Mahomes for being clutch like he always is. I'm not going to really take as much stock into the missed field goals because of the missed field goal from Buffalo. Because I mean, 44 yards in that wind is not exactly a gimme, and also the fact that they had a chance to get a stop after that kick. They couldn't stop Kansas City. So, and they also had a couple of big plays like Stephon Diggs dropping one. And they had a couple of plays in which a couple of plays could have done differently too. So I'm not going to put as much stock into it, the missed kick, as others would. But I just think it came down to the fact that Kansas City is battle tested, and I think they have a certain psychological hold over Buffalo that we're seeing in the playoffs.
Clearly, and also no Gabe Davis was definitely a hole. I wish they facilitated their tight ends a little more on offense. I wish Kincaid would have made more of an impact. I would think that would have made a difference. But yeah, and especially the holes on defense, and Travis Kelce finally coming out of his shell after a bad stretch. It clearly showed that Klein coming off the couch was a mismatch for him, and it clearly makes sense why the Chiefs won. And I've learned an ultimate lesson to just not bet against Patrick Mahomes. These special winners find a way. They just do. And if you want if you want to talk about any outside forces, you want to talk about the refs, if you want to talk about all of these little breaks, well, that's life at the end of the day. If you're really supposed to be one of the best ever, let's go Michael Jordan, for instance, you'll just figure out a way to win. And that's what happens. It's putting the ball in the right position, and then sometimes it bounces your certain way. So you got to give kudos to this Chiefs team and what they were able to pull off. And I'd like to get more deeper when we preview the AFC Championship, but this was definitely an eye-opening game. And yeah, we just learned you can't vote against Mahomes.
No, Patrick Mahomes is the Brady of this generation. He's the Jordan of this generation. I think it all said and done. I think when all is said and done, he's going to go down as the second greatest quarterback ever behind Brady.
Absolutely. There is no denying that.
I think even if he gets another couple of Super Bowls, I think he'll even contend for Brady as the greatest of all time. It's gonna be very close to the Jordan LeBron debate.
Can't go wrong. You just can't. And it is interesting how they did go. I guess we should have appreciated that matchup a little more. I reckon it was the COVID year, the COVID Super Bowl. You had Mahomes versus Brady in a Super Bowl. And unfortunately, COVID might have taken away that luster. But shoot, that was really.
I mean, Brady is 2-0 lifetime in the playoffs versus Mahomes, so he probably has that.
He definitely has that advantage, especially at his advanced age at the time. So it's tough. It's tough. Are you somebody who's like a Kansas City? I don't want to say hater, but are you tired of seeing Kansas City out there?
No, I think if they're the best team, I think it's nice to see a quarterback. I don't have a problem with it.
Interesting. So now, why don't we talk about the other AFC matchup here, where the Baltimore Ravens played the Houston Texans. And here's my picks. It went the complete opposite of what I said. So I'll own up to that. I thought that the Texans would cover the spread. And clearly, as we see, they weren't even close. The Ravens showed how dominant on defense they were. They did not give up a single touchdown on the ground or in the air from Stroud, despite all the talent they have there. The only time Houston scored was in special teams. And I think the Ravens have proven why they are the best team in the AFC, clearly. But I mean, of course, when we look at the game itself, who knows? But Lamar Jackson showed why he's solid. Hayden, I think it's fair to say that you've won the debate about Lamar Jackson stepping up as a top quarterback, and he's an All-Pro for a reason.
He's going to be a two-time MVP once he wins it this year, which he's going to.
Exactly.
And he wins another playoff game and gets to a Super Bowl. He's arguably a Hall of Fame quarterback. You get to a Super Bowl and you have two MVPs. You're looking at the Hall of Fame. He's the best. He is the best Russian quarterback the league has ever seen by a mile. I'm sorry, no disrespect to people who love Cam Newton and Michael Vick. He's probably better than both of them combined. He's unbelievable. He's fast. He's impossible to tackle. All the guy does is win. If you look at his career record in the regular season, it's ridiculous. It's one of the greatest of all time, actually, right now. Like in terms of winning percentage, he has an unbelievable winning percentage in the regular season. And if he gets to a Super Bowl and wins one, beating Patrick Mahomes would be legendary. This is a guy that was drafted 32nd overall. Scouts told him he was going to he had to be a running back or receiver. And this guy is probably quite possibly and probably the greatest two-way quarterback we've ever seen in terms of rushing and his passing ability. The guy threw for 2 passing touchdowns, rushed for another 2. He's unbelievable. He's literally, there's nothing this guy can't do with the ball in his hands, both throwing and running. There's nothing he can't do.
Well, Hayden, we will make sure that Lamar Jackson somehow sees your kind words to him.
And credit to DeMeco Ryans for getting them ready to play, because it was a 10-10 game in the first half. At the end of the first half, it was a pretty close game in the first half. And credit to them for being 10-7, winning that division in Stroud's first year. Stroud's going to be a future All-Pro in the future. He's done tremendously. And they still have Nico Collins. They have a couple of weapons there. Their running game starting to come on strong towards the end. So it's just nice to see DeMeco Ryans in his first year do a great job with that team. And credit to CJ Stroud for being an All-Pro and having one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time.
They should be a very good team for a long time, no doubt about it. And yeah, you know what? You were right, and Alex Ranello was wrong. And too bad he ran away, that he can't defend himself for it. But you earned it, Aiden. You earned it.
He should be the MVP. And like I said, if he wins another MVP and wins a Super Bowl, we're talking about Hall of Fame.
No doubt about it. Some great trajectory there, and what he's able to do with the backup tight end, and we'll see if Andrews comes back this week. I mean, don't bet on it. It also
helps that they have Zay Flowers now. They have OBJ. They definitely have more weapons now. They have a good running game in Justice Hill.
Right.
They added Dalvin Cook from the Jets, who all of a sudden decided to become a running back once he left the Jets. So
yeah, that must have. You were the very first person I thought of when he was making that 12-yard run, and man,
it was a 19-yard run. It was a 19-yard run, but
what a difference good coaching makes, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
But absolutely. But as you said, I think
it's a good combo. You got a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback, with a great defense. It's a good combo, because John Harbaugh's a Hall of Fame coach for sure.
And John
Harbaugh's a first ballot.
And he's getting protection he needed.
And they have a great O-line. So
yeah, exactly.
I think they're the best team in the playoffs right now. Does the best team always win? Obviously, never. I want to say usually doesn't, but a lot of times doesn't. But right now, if I had to say the best team in the playoffs overall, I would say Baltimore is. Like
you said, check marks all across the board. Now
they don't really have any real weakness. Like, if I could see one weakness they have, I can't really see one.
No, you can't. You thought for a second it might be the tight end position.
Maybe
steps up and look what's
maybe at the wide receiver position they're a little bit weak, in comparison to other teams. But I mean, when you have Lamar Jackson who runs the ball, 12 times, and with their running game, you don't necessarily have to throw the ball as much.
Exactly. But give credit to credit's due. Baltimore looked incredible at home, and that place was rocking in Baltimore. But still, kudos to Houston, as you mentioned. Caps off to them. The future is extremely bright in Houston. But props to what Baltimore has created. Now, going to the next game, Hayden. Let's go to the NFC. The Detroit Lions at home were able to defeat Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by score 31-23. The second game in a row where all things were pointing in the right direction for the Lions. Jared Goff looked flawless out there at home. You saw the running back by committee, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery getting a ton of yardage in the game. You saw the defensive line giving pressure to Baker all game long. They'll give credit to the Buccaneers, who did stay in it and made a fight. And they definitely it came down to the final drive. But, interception in the middle of the field causes them to lose. But this was another fun game throughout. And similarly to Houston, Tampa Bay looks like they still have a good future ahead. They are figuring out what they're going to do. I know with Mike Evans, see if he's going elsewhere, but it's crazy to see what they were able to produce, just switching Tom Brady, and still Godwin was a good out there on and two. It was a good game, and it could have gone either way, but ultimately Detroit comes out on top. Any additional thoughts with this game in particular?
I mean, it was a closer game than I originally anticipated, actually. But I think Detroit did a good job making that one play off Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was able to throw for a lot of yards this game. He threw for 3 touchdowns. Obviously, the 2 interceptions was costly. They got back into the game actually with Mike Evans with that touchdown to make it 31-23. I hate the decision to go for 2 there. I thought that was ridiculous at that time in the game. I love Todd Bowles. Usually he's pretty conservative, so surprised for him to go for 2 there. Didn't love that. He could have called a timeout maybe at the end of the game to get the ball back for like 12 seconds, which obviously would have needed a miracle, but you never know. I didn't love that decision either, but I have to say, give credit to Baker Mayfield for getting the best of that team. They did win a division title, went 9-8, even though in the weak NFC South. So give credit is due there. I think Detroit actually. I think Baltimore is the team that has the fewest holes, but I think Detroit's the most physical team left in the playoffs. Like Detroit's really physical. With that O line and that defense and Aiden Hutchinson. Like I feel like they're going to beat San Francisco. We'll talk about that prediction a little bit later. But Jared Goff has been tremendous for that city. Dan Campbell, obviously, when he's making jokes about biting kneecaps, everyone laughed at him. But now 3 years later, he's in a Super Bowl with Brad Holmes, and give their GM Brad Holmes a lot of credit. He drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta,
and that incredible offensive line too.
And and that credible offensive line he built with Penei Sewell. So give him all the credit in the world. Just happy for Detroit. Nice to see them win after the drought they've had. Nice to see my team would ever break a drought, the Jets. But I mean, it is nice to see Detroit win that game. There's not really much I can really say, other than the fact that Jared Goff's actually one of 5 quarterbacks to lead 2 NFC teams to the. I want to say he's one of 2 quarterbacks to lead 2 NFC teams to the NFC Championship game. It's Kurt Warner was one of them. There's a couple of quarterbacks.
Yeah, Brett Favre was
Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, Jared Goff, and then there was like 2 more. I want to see the list. I'll get the list right now, but there's only 2 others.
Yeah, I think Jared Goff this year really earned his flowers, and when they made that trade a few years ago, Stafford for Goff, people thought that Detroit was the one losing. Yet, look who's still here, and you gotta give a lot of credit to what he's been able to do. And even in a game where Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't extremely explosive, he still used his other options, like you mentioned, a Laporta, like a Reynolds. He's really figuring out how to get all these players the ball, and it's a lot of fun to see. It really is.
Yeah, like it's been awesome.
I'm just curious, who are those other 2 quarterbacks? So
I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get the other 2.
But as we figure that out too, and we can even move on forward. But the last thing,
the 5 quarterbacks are to take. Hold on, it was Brady, Manning, Kurt Warner, and Craig Morton.
Okay,
to take 2 teams from the same conference to the conference title.
Okay.
If they beat that's if they beat the Niners.
Okay, great.
They'll join Brady, Manning, Warner, and Craig Morton.
Well, that's how some special company right there. And speaking of the Niners, we had another thriller on Saturday night. San Francisco 49ers won by a close score of 24-21 over Green Bay. San Francisco didn't play their best game, and Green Bay took advantage of it. They closed their own spread, but ultimately San Francisco does come out on top. Unfortunately, Debo's banged up, and hopefully he's able to play in this game. Still questionable at this moment on the injury report. But Christian McCaffrey looked okay despite coming in with his calf injury. But, I mean, Green Bay was pushing through. They were stopping San Francisco where they needed to. Jordan Love played another great game. Talk about another franchise that looks like they're going to have a bright future ahead. But ultimately, San Francisco maybe showing a little vulnerability, but they did get the win against Green Bay to get back into the NFC Championship with Kyle Shanahan.
I mean, credit to Brock Purdy for making the plays when it mattered the most. I think this game was very concerning, though, if you're a 49ers fan, because I think, honestly, they need a certain level of conditions to win, which is tough. Because I think the other teams in the playoffs, like Baltimore and Detroit, don't need as many conditions to win. I think ultimately at the end of the day they can win without things being perfect. For San Francisco, they need a lot of things to be perfect. They need Debo to be healthy. They need
Yep.
they need Trent Williams to be healthy. I mean, I just like honestly, without Debo, it's kind of incredible how lost they are on offense.
Yeah.
I think you can make an argument that he's more of an important player to the Niners than McCaffrey is, which is kind of crazy.
And that's where the criticisms for Purdy comes in about being more
But
of
I
a
mean,
system
but
quarterback.
give Brock Purdy credit for making the plays when it mattered the most. So that's the one thing I'll say about that. When we'll do our predictions, we'll talk a little bit about that. But I mean, it was a great game, but like obviously with the playoffs, you're gonna need some things to happen. And Carlson
Yep.
missed the kick,
Makes the
which helped
field
them out.
goal
Yeah,
and
to make it
yeah.
7 points,
And
which helped. But credit their defense for making the last second stop on Jordan Love in that game. So I mean, there's not much really there is to it in this game. But I mean, other than the fact that San Francisco made the big plays when it mattered the most, I think Jared Goff's gonna carve them up. I think Jared Goff and the
ooh,
Lions.
just save that when we get to the NFC Championship. I'm very interested to hear for sure. But yeah, man, you got to at least be, if you're a Green Bay fan, you got to be happy with the future ahead. And I'm sure once they get a kicker, the coach has more confidence in to be okay there too. What a quote that came out. I pray that it goes in. But yeah, this ultimately came down to the Packers making just few more mistakes than the 49ers did, but this really could have gone either way. And imagine if it was Green Bay and Detroit coming into this
Yeah,
week after.
it would have been a. I actually, to be honest with you, I think it actually would have been a better matchup per se for Detroit versus Green Bay because they're both division rivals, so they have familiarity playing with each other. And
After
I
Green Bay
want to say Green
embarrassed
Bay.
them
I
on
want to say Green
Thanksgiving this
Bay.
year too.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Green Bay already beat the Lions?
Yeah, on Thanksgiving they
Yeah, they beat
embarrassed
them
them.
on
They
Thanksgiving.
destroyed
Yeah,
them.
so yeah, I mean, I actually think that would have been a pretty good matchup. But I mean, like I said, it's probably the two best teams of all season, which is cool. But we'll see.
Hey, it's fair enough there. It's fair enough there. But ultimately, I think the divisional weekend was a success. We got 4 different games, but ultimately they were all intriguing one way or the other. And now that brings us our final 4 teams, Hayden. And those final 4 teams and that brings us to our final 4 teams, Hayden. We have the Chiefs, the Lions, the 49ers, and the Ravens as your final 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. And we know how we got there, Hayden. They got there through being prepared for the game, hard work, and they were focused all season long. And that's like me in life, needing to find a way to stay focused to accomplish something for a very long time in this whole podcasting season and in general, just staying focused. Out of those 4 teams that are left, everyone involved on and off the field were hyper focused on achieving their goals. And now they're just one game away from the Super Bowl. And for you and me and anyone else looking to improve their focus and achieve more, we get a little help from our friends at Magic Mind. Ever since I started taking Magic Mind as a way to improve my energy and improve my focus on my busy life, I wound up finding the solution I needed, and that is with this great product known as Magic Mind. I started taking Magic Mind during my morning routine, and ever since then, it has made a big impact on my concentration and energy. So pretty much the way it works for me, I go to the gym every morning, 5 to 6 days a week. I get up, I do my morning stretches as I get older. I then take my shot of Magic Mind, and then I go about with my workout. Then have my breakfast, I take my shower, and then I'm off to work and living this great life I live. But after taking Magic Mind for some time, I generally have felt more awake. I'm not as sore as I used to be. I'm more focused and equipped throughout my day. It really gives me that pep in my step and that energy. And this product just gives me a better attitude for my mental and physical health, as you can see. And I will say it definitely tastes very good. That is true. It really tastes good. And the nootropics helped me get a lot done with my day. It allowed me to be less stressed about my world. It doesn't have caffeine, so you don't need to feel bad about drinking your morning coffee in the day or drinking your pre-workout or whatever. If you want to do that, you can replace all that stuff together because Magic Mind really works. And why does it work? Well, as mentioned, it helps the concentration. It gives you the energy you need. It gives you inspiration to give you a lot more effort throughout the day. And with its various ingredients, it reduces fatigue and anxiety, and increases your body's resistance to stress, and it improves physical and mental endurance as well as help your mental clarity. And that's what we need, especially our mental clarity. Use our noggins to go about the day. And I used to have a hard time getting up in the morning, especially in the last few months, but ever since I started taking Magic Mind, it's been way easier to get out of bed and way easier to attack my goals for the day. And I would recommend Magic Mind because it really gives me that extra boost we need in this stressful world. It physically gets my body ready for the day. It mentally gives me the clarity I need to go about my business. Plus, the energy it gives me is so exciting. It really excites me for what's about to happen. And at the end of the day, this product just gives you at the end of the day, this product just makes you live your best life. And I really mean that. So why not add that extra boost to your life and get fully focused like I did and check out the Magic Mind website and get this incredible product to help improve your life immensely. And I promise you, you won't regret it. And the Magic Mind team was gracious enough to create a special offer for me to share with the Productive Nation, our greatest fans. Hopefully Hayden's interested after. And like I said, this is a real great opportunity to give you that pep in your step, if you will. So the gracious deal they gave us is that you get up to 56% off your first subscription in the month of January and 20% off your one-time purchase using discount code productive20. And you could get this deal at magicmind.com/Jan Productive Conversation. That's magicmind.com/Jan Productive Conversation. And don't forget to use the discount code productive20 and get the special deal you need. And with the special code, it's an extra 20% off, so you get a total of 75% off your first subscription. But definitely get it as soon as you can because this deal only lasts until January. So, and if anybody also wants to know, we do have the link in our description on YouTube and all our podcasting platforms. So again, check out the link below on the description on all podcasting platforms and YouTube. And again, we just want to thank the people at Magic Mind for this opportunity. And let's get focused and achieve these goals. So moving on now, let us talk about what I think is the most exciting weekend in sports. I know divisional weekend special. The Super Bowl is one of my favorite days of the year, but this is the last Sunday where it's nothing but gritty football, and we know it's on the line, a trip to the Super Bowl. So why don't we first preview the AFC Championship? Here we go, Hayden. It is. All right, Hayden, let's do this. Your AFC Championship will be the Kansas City Chiefs go into Baltimore and play the Baltimore Ravens in what should be a special matchup where Patrick Mahomes is going up against Lamar Jackson. Right now, the spread is -4 points for the Baltimore Ravens. So here we go. Chiefs versus Ravens. Ravens are your 4-point favorites. This is the AFC Championship. Hayden, tell me your initial thoughts about this matchup.
Yeah, I have Baltimore winning this game 31-20. I think Baltimore's offense is going to be too much for Kansas City to handle in their running game. I think, actually, not 31-20. I'm 31-20. We'll say it's 31-20. If Buffalo could score 24, I think Baltimore's going to be able to score 31 at home. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I like Justice Hill and Lamar. I think Lamar is going to make enough big game plays to win this game, and I think they'll score a touchdown late at the end of the game to make it 31-20. That's my final score.
All right. So you are going with the -4 point spread for Baltimore. For Baltimore. You're going with the -4 spread with Baltimore. All right, Hayden, let me say, and let me say deeply that I do think that on paper that the Baltimore Ravens are a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs. And we could point out to the fact that this is the best remaining offense on the team. I mean, if you want to talk about the 49ers, fine. But as you mentioned, even they have their limitations. But Baltimore has beaten the spread every single game this year, just about, with the exception of their obvious losses. They have killed teams all year long. They have stayed composed this season as well, and they've played a lot of tough matchups. They defeated the 49ers earlier this year and teams like that. Everything points that this Baltimore Ravens team should defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, but you know what? Especially after the Buffalo Bills game, I'm going to go with +4 with the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're going to pull off the upset. You somehow can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. And the one way that they can make this work is by utilizing the running game for Isaiah Pacheco. He is going to be a major factor. He needs to have at least 75 plus yards on the ground against this defense, who are playing against one of the most intimidating pass rushers. But I somehow believe that they could get the protection they need to get that yardage. If Travis Kelce can somehow utilize his way to beat these tough linebackers in the secondary of the Baltimore Ravens, he will be an important factor. And finally, if they can use Rashid Rice like they should have been using him all year long as the one trusted receiver and weapon to actually get yardage, actually catch the ball, and have plenty of yards after the catch, which is one of his strong suits. And then Patrick Mahomes being, as you mentioned, the greatest quarterback of his generation, I think that Kansas City will be able to get this upset. I just hope I'm wrong.
I mean, they're going to have to control the time of possession, and they're going to have a couple of turnovers. So if they want to win that game.
Yeah. It's, again, I just have to go with my gut on this one. And everything shows that, especially with the Ravens going up against a very difficult defense at Kansas City, they're not going to fare well. I think that they can, whatever the over is going to be for Lamar Jackson, I do think that pass rush could go under with him. When you have playmakers like Chris Jones out there, give him a hard time. But as you mentioned, if they could just control the time of possession and they can keep the ball in their hands and keep getting first downs throughout, Kansas City will be in the damn Super Bowl once again in the Andy Reid era. But you can't beat them. It's true. You can't beat them. Join them, and they're definitely playing their toughest match of the entire season. And we'll see who's the one standing at the end of the day. All right, so we're going opposite. You're going with Baltimore. I'm going with Kansas City. So why don't we get ready and break down the NFC Championship? Your 2024 NFC Championship includes the Detroit Lions going to San Francisco. The Detroit Lions are playing the San Francisco 49ers in this year's NFC Championship. San Francisco is opening at -7. That is your spread right now. Hayden, who's going to win this game, the Detroit Lions or the San Francisco 49ers?
I have the Detroit Lions winning this game 27-23. I think their offensive line is going to be able to hold up versus the San Fran pass rush. I think they're going to make enough plays through the air with Jared Goff, St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, and their other receivers. I like Laporta to have a big game. And I think their defense actually is going to hold up versus Kittle. I make a couple of turnovers off Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's going to turn the ball over twice in this game. And I have the Lions winning this game 27-23.
All right, Lions win 27-23. So, okay, we'll give it that one. And I will go in the opposite here as well. I think the San Francisco 49ers will be able to cover their spread. I think they could at least win. I would just change the spread to -6.5. But I do think San Francisco could cover. They could win by 10 points against the Detroit Lions. And the big factor in this is that the Detroit Lions secondary is weak.
No,
unless they want to play dirty.
I think their secondary actually played pretty good versus Tampa, and that and that receiving core. So, I
No
mean, we'll see. I
doubt.
actually think their secondary has played pretty good.
But I think that putting all things together, I do think Debo and George Kittle and McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk, and Ayuk wasn't utilized that much in the Detroit in the divisional game, but I do think that they can outmatch people like Garner Johnson and stuff like that. I think that is the factor. I think Brock Purdy, as long as he's protected, if they could somehow make sure that Aiden Hutchinson doesn't sack him and that insane defensive line of the Detroit Lions, I do think the secondary will falter, and I just think their weapons will not be able to outmatch what Detroit has to offer, especially Kittle. People haven't caught on that the Brock Purdy Kittle combination is one of the most underrated duos in the entire league. He's clearly his favorite target, and he's been making plays. You could double coverage, you could double team him, and he could still make the catch in the end zone, like we saw against Green Bay. I ultimately think that'll be the factor, plus having home field. And I think Kyle Shanahan could somehow get this team back into the Super Bowl, and we'll have a rematch from 4 years ago. So I'm going with San Francisco covering the 7 points against Detroit. But again, I hope I'm wrong. But either way, Hayden, I think we can wrap it up today. AFC and NFC championships are set. You're going with a Baltimore Detroit Super Bowl. I'm going
Yep.
with a San Francisco Kansas City one. But I hope you're right and I'm wrong, and I hope you make fun of me for it. And it should be a lot of fun, though. I do think these four teams are, I'll go on a limb saying, the most intriguing at this point, and we will ultimately see where this all pans out. But should be fun. I'm excited to talk about it next week, and let's see where we're at. Let's see what Super Bowl, what's this going to be? Super Bowl 59 is going to be. All right.
Yep.
We'll see that later. All right. Thank you, Hayden, and we'll see everybody soon.